Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the first episode of SPAG Dialogue for the year 2024, a place where we bring eminent communicators, brand custodians, and business leaders to share their perspective, insights, as well as crystal gaze into the future of what marketing, communications, brand thought leadership should look like. Today, we have the honor of having with us Bhaskar Majumdar, a friend first, and also a multifaceted communications expert with more than 2 decades of experience across organizations, which includes Reliance, ESPN Star Sports, and leading strategic communication agency. He has been awarded as a Corporate Communication Person of the Year 2023 by not just Campaign India, but as well as Agency Reporter and AdGully. He has been named as a top 100 influential game changer by Exchange for Media. He has been named as a top 20 digital creators by Clan Connect and PR Moment. He is currently working as a head marketing, communications, CSR, and digital at the Egis South Asia. And that's just a bit of it. There's a much more longer summary of what all he represents. But for this episode, we'll just stick to that part of it, Bhaskar. Bhaskar, welcome to SPAG Dialogue, and thanks for spending time with us to really discuss the theme of today. Which is really trying to understand an intriguing connection which exists between a company's brand equity and the brand equity of its leadership. We will try to explore with you today how these two elements intersect, influence each other, and ultimately impact the success and perceptions of the organization, its brand across different stakeholders. I know personally, what we were discussing, yesterday. This is a topic which is really close to your heart. So let's sort of start to understand from you first that do you really see that there is a strong connection between the brand equity of an organization and its leadership? And if yes, how do you see these two things interconnected?
First of all, good morning, Aman, and thanks a lot for the fantastic introduction. And also, thank you so much for inviting me for the podcast. I'm really eager to engage in a fruitful, engaging discussion, which will be fruitful for everyone. And coming back to your question, I think for any brand, whether it operates in a B2B or B2C sphere, having a credible face is very critical. For any brand, there has to be a face, right? And in general, the CEO's face is the face which the brand represents, or the CEO represents the brand face, right? And I will not say it's his personal branding, because when a CEO of a particular company is either he's writing a LinkedIn, or he's going to an event, or he's doing a town hall, or he's doing a podcast, he is actually representing a brand, right? And by embedding the CEO's passion, mission, and values, the brand becomes more humanized, right? Otherwise, its brand is only a logo, right? Case in point, whenever we talk about Tatas, the first thing comes to our mind is Ratan Tata. Now, any company where the senior management are the personal brand ambassadors for the brand actually excels. So I will not call CEOs as CEOs only; they are also the brand ambassadors, because not only the internal audience, the external audience, starting from governments, and then customers to internal audience. Internal audience largely is your employees. Employees can be the existing one. Employees can be the employees who will be the probable employees. Now, for them, for creating a brand, and why the brand is important, or why a thought leadership engagement has to be done to enhance the brand imaginary, is something the CEO can do. Now, there are multiple ways to do it depending on what the stakeholders are. Nowadays I have seen that in a post pandemic era, the focus of every brand, B2B brand or B2C brand, in fact largely B2B brand, is mostly to retain talent and get more talent. And especially like the company I represent, it's an engineering company, and we always in need of engineers. We are a 3,000 people company, and only 400 people are in the headquarters, and list 2,600 people are scattered in various locations. For us, attracting talent is a huge thing. And for attracting talent, the CEO's profiling, or CEO, what the CEO is saying about the brand, be it innovation, be it the culture, be it the ESG work they are doing, is something very, very important.
No, Bhaskar, I think you really touched upon a very important point, which I think gets amiss a little bit. Uh, the fact that how a brand has to have a human to human connect, the humanization of a brand per se, whether it is a corporate brand or it's a brand recognizing a service or a product, how it is seen as a human and how you sort of connect it to different stakeholders is very, very important. And therefore, the role which the leadership has to play. And when we say leadership, it's multiple leadership, whether it is your CEO, whether it is
Absolutely.
a founder, whether it's, I think everybody has a role to play to make it happen. And especially in today's world where you have the newer generations coming in who are very active in the digital and the social part
Yeah.
of it, they do search, saying, who is this organization? And if they see a face of an individual coming and talking about the values, the purpose, they feel connected to it, right? Because everything else
Absolutely.
is
And
more.
I know, Aman, there is another thing in the last, 2, 3 years, I've seen another thing that, this personal branding or branding of, various activities of your organization has become so important that not only the CEO, not only the senior management, now most of the companies have created a extended management team because maybe
Right,
for the CEO or the senior management, it's not, they don't have sufficient time because they have to also run the business
right,
and but they have to be visible, they have to be talking something which is related to the brand. So most of the brands have also created this extended management team, they also act as a brand ambassador, right? For me, if you ask me, every employee is a brand ambassador. So any employee of the company, he's not, if he's not talking good about the company either in Glassdoor or even in social media, the purpose of that particular brand gets lost. And it has to be a top down approach. So if the senior management and the CEO, if they're not talking good about the company, or even not, they're not being able to highlight the USP of the company and the mission, vision, and values of the company, then it becomes very difficult for every communicator or marketing communication guy to enhance the brand image.
I agree. And I think, again, as we both agree that, it's not just, one individual, it's the overarching top management which needs to uh, take the
Yeah.
messaging of the brand to its larger audience base. Have you also seen, and because you have worked on multiple brands, whether it is homegrown Indian brands or global, brands from across US and the Europe, is there any kind of a difference which Bhaskar you have seen in the approach to this between homegrown brands versus the brands which we call it as kind of a multinational?
Yes, but things are changing. I mean, the biggest change is that whenever I have interacted with or managed international brands, the CEOs are more forthcoming in, engaging either the journalist or being very active, present in social media, especially LinkedIn, and sometimes Twitter also. Depending on the brand, I mean, if the brand is more of B2C, then maybe Instagram also. Indian MNCs were very reluctant. The CEOs of Indian MNC companies were very reluctant, but over the last 3 to 4 years, I think things have changed. But a long way to go. Long way to go. I think it's more to do with the Indian CEOs are more engaged in. I mean, they're more involved in in the company's activities and more to do with finance, getting new business, and somehow this part gets missed. But this is also an integral part of the CEO's KRA, I think. If the CEO has not been able to promote the company and its activities and not been able to amplify the smaller things they're doing, then I think the people in the organization will not be able to do that much. So as I said earlier, it has to be a top down approach. And as I said that there was a difference 5 to 6 years back when whenever I used to interact with someone from a international MNC, they used to be more, forthcoming. They used to have their own ideas how to do it. I remember, I was managing one brand where the CEO said that, can you give me some idea where I can have a weekly LinkedIn post,
Hmm.
right? Now, something like that is not seen in India, but yeah, with senior people like like Mr. Anand Mahindra, he's so active
Yes.
in Twitter, right? So
Yes.
I've seen senior businessmen in India slowly they are becoming very very active, and also say Indian MNCs they have their own checks and balances and issues. So I think that was something which was not letting them go so active in either social media or any kind of outreach. But in a post-pandemic area, I think arena, I think it's important for the CEOs and the Indian CEOs have also understood it, and almost I see now 50 to 60% of the CEOs, they're very active.
So, and again, I think you brought in the very amazing example of Anand Mahindra. I think all of us who are into the brand communication side have seen him evolve from somebody who was seen as just a business leader to now almost becoming a business influencer.
Yeah,
He's, what he does on X is something which people, watch. It becomes a story in the media,
absolutely.
and he's also able to defend sometimes in the times of the crisis using his personal reputation for the brand per se. So I think that's a very, very great example of if you really uh, take the strategic framework of how I would like to link my personal brand equity, which is interlinked with the business part of it, it
True.
can have a very, very strong impact. So apart from these, we know few example. You have the Ratan Tata, you have Anand
Yes.
Mahindra. Any other brands which you think, and again, it could be Indian or global in your personal capacity, where the brand of the leader and the brand per se
Elon
have
Musk,
been really
Elon
connected.
Musk, Tim Cook, they're the, if you'll see them always talking about their products, services, industry, challenges, opportunities in Twitter. They're not that much active in LinkedIn, but Twitter, yes. So
Hmm.
internationally, I think most of the CEOs or the senior management or the business leaders are more active on social media. I mean, the platform may be different. I mean, I've seen most of the Indian CEOs are more active in LinkedIn, whereas
Hmm.
international ones are more active in Twitter. And they can have their own reasons. I mean, it depends on what target audience they want to target or what kind of messaging they want to deliver. But everyone is very active internationally. They are very active. Like, look at Elon Musk. I mean, he announces everything in Twitter.
And Bhaskar, so let's sort of, I think we all agree, therefore, that the fact that there is a need for the leadership and the management to have a kind of a systemic approach to how they would like to bring out the vision and the mission and the values of the brand, as well as, other aspect of it. As a communicator per se, therefore, if you need to provide like a guidance to the leaders who are listening to this, to say if you need to start now, so what should be the steps they need to take to ensure that they have a very structured and a strategic roadmap where they can see their role in building the brand reputation of the organization or the brands which they represent.
So as you know, as communicators, we always talk about the strategic narrative and then various messaging under it. Now, like me, I'm a marketing communication guy. I'm advising my CEO also, my MD also. So what I have done is this: that I have taken up three different points and I've taken one narrative which has to be built, and that narrative goes for every stakeholder, right? Starting from governments, because 100% of our clients are government clients, state government and central government. So
Hmm.
starting from government to industry body to employees, which is the existing ones and the potential ones, our vendors. I know a lot of time, what happens, I mean, most of the brands, they always talk about stakeholders, but they never talk about, vendors as being part of the stakeholder group. So I consider, vendors are also part of stakeholder group. And then creating certain consistent messaging, which has to be done. And then you have to choose that what are the platform they have to be. Like
Yeah.
for employees, it can be a town hall, physical town hall. It can be a podcast. It can be a mailer. It can be a personal meeting. I still, as a old PR guy, I still feel that personal meetings are better. So maybe once a quarter, the CEO can meet up with the 20 top employees who have joined over a cup of tea, right? And where he will not give any kind of GAN. It will be more to understand and listen to them that how they have spent last 3 months and if there are any grievances are and how they think they can become a brand as an ambassador of the company. So for any company, I think the employees are the first brand ambassador if you've been able to capture them in the first initial 3 to 4 months of time. Even for the employee feels empowered that the CEO and MD is spending half an hour with them over coffee or tea within the first 3 months. So that is
Hmm.
one part, which is the employee one. For government, you have to be very active and understand what are the government policies are, what are the things which are happening in industry, and you always have to take a positive, approach towards it, right? So second part is government. Third part is that you have to be very involved in industry bodies, right? You
Yes.
know, suppose if there is a company which is auto manufacturing company, then the CEO or the MD has to be seen, or he has to be visible in various forums like, SIAM or ACMA, depending on what kind of business they have. So it's over there, you're managing the OEMs also, the vendors also, your competition also, your partners also. So when the communication tool or communication approach has to be done, it has to be holistic. And I'm sure you will also agree to me that the messaging cannot be same everywhere. So it has to be
Exactly.
customized messaging. But one thumb rule is that you have to be consistent. So it cannot
Hmm.
be, even if it's a LinkedIn post. So the LinkedIn post cannot happen after 3 months,
Right.
right? And it has to be a something like umbrella approach, that you have talked about something big, and then slowly taking it bit by bit, maybe weekly, maybe fortnightly, and most of the time the CEOs may not have the time. So it's the responsibility of the Marcom guys or the corporate communication guys to create that messaging, the consistent way of what they're going to talk, where, when. Like if you ask me, for me, the first 3 months of the year is very important, because December you start doing a lot of activities, that how the year has ended, and
Yes.
January first week you do how the outlook for 2024 will be, and by mid January you'll start working on the expectation for the budget, and the
Right.
first week of February it will be post budget. Now these are touch points which we understand. Now
Yeah.
depending on this touch point, you have to decide that whether I will be present in industry body, or I will be, like December you should have a town hall. A lot of companies I've seen, they don't have town hall in December and they do it on January. Ideally it should be in the month of December, where they talk
Right.
about the how 23 has passed by, and what is the plans for companies for in the coming years, preferably by the end of the December, depending on the company. So it's more of being consistent, and there has to be clarity, right? There has to
Hmm.
be clarity. Whatever you say, it has to be authentic, right? It cannot be, giving a spell,
Yeah.
right? If you're in a business, you have to talk about business. Obviously, human angle has to be there.
Perfect. No, I think Bhaskar, great. Thanks a lot for, providing kind of a roadmap that it needs to start from what is my messaging, so a message house which is aligned to who my stakeholders are. And therefore, while my overarching kind of a message remains the same, but how do I interpret and adapt it for different stakeholders becomes very
Absolutely.
important. And also, I think, as we have seen, we also, do a lot of work with, global companies and Indian companies. And as you rightly said, people have started to sort of realize the connection between the two sides. So they also, we recommend that, going through a kind of a communication training so that you can
Absolutely. Absolutely.
imbibe the messaging for to
Absolutely.
ensure that you're able to do that part. And
So, Aman,
have,
I'll tell you one thing.
mm,
Whatever you're discussing is part of SOP internationally.
yes,
Yeah, in India, you have to actually, force it through.
yes,
And
it,
the only way you can do it is a training. And a
yes,
lot of times, the senior managements are very reluctant that, we are already at a senior position. We know what to do in our business. Why we need to
yeah,
be trained? But whether it's media or public speaking, or speaking in an industry body, or even engaging with employees, is a different ballgame altogether. And most of the time, I've seen that the CEOs or the senior management is not very comfortable to get trained from the internal people, which is the Marcom people or the Copcom
yeah,
people, because
yeah,
they are part of the company only. So
yeah,
for them, if there is an external company or external agency or external consultancy which is coming up and giving them some kind of ideation and thought, they're more comfortable to adopt to it. They're more comfortable to take it forward. Obviously, the marketing team or the corporate commission team will be the team which is going to take it forward on a regular basis. But I think it's very important for any brand, especially B2C brand, to have media training, or not only media training, stakeholder training also. It can be a combination of everything, and especially if the company is into a regulatory environment, maybe a small training, or I'll not say training, it's more of session. I generally, when I used to be an agency, I never used to call it training. I used to say it familiarity session. So,
yes,
and the CEOs and MDs, if you say training, it's sometimes that word they don't like. So it's more of a session. It's a discussion session where you can talk about suppose if there is a particular company which is present in, say, 16 states, and the elections are approaching now. what are the pros and cons of the elections. Like, in our company, I say as I said, that 100% of our clients are government clients. So if elections are, say, in another 2 months of time, then our business development will not that much active in, say, at least for 1 quarter. And maybe
True.
when the new government comes in, maybe again there will be realignment, and again another quarter is lost. Now, something like that, if external agency or external consultancy comes and explains now what to do, what not to do, can be something which can be discussed.
Yeah.
At least you should have that discussion forum open.
Perfect. And Bhaskar, so therefore, coming kind of the final part of the podcast per se. So as a communicator and to the larger leadership which exists, so, looking at, kind of a listeners per se, what's your personal advice to say, why shall they do it? So I think, and how should they go about doing it? I think it's what we would like to do is like your personal advice to the leadership outside who are listening to this to say, guys, time for you to, roll up the sleeves and get going onto this space per se. So how would you like them to sort of take charge
So,
of this?
so if you ask me, the senior management, especially the CEOs and MDs, they are responsible for the brand, they are responsible for the business, but they are also responsible for the brand building. It's not the entirely responsible to the marketing communication or the corporate communication team to do. They will not be able to do it unless it's a top-down approach and they are open to interact, they are open to ideas, right? And today, I think, as I said, Anand Mahindra is very active in Twitter or X. There are multiple people who are very active in LinkedIn. Case in point, my MD has started. He has also started his outreach in LinkedIn.
Right.
Now, we have a large young force. I mean, young workforce, and they are present in LinkedIn. They are not that much in Twitter. Now it's absolutely necessary that you engage with everyone, and I think social media is a very good tool where you don't have to spend much time, because
Right.
having personal meetings or going and meeting up people requires a lot of time. I mean, if someone has to move from Gurgaon to, say, Delhi for a particular meeting, it's easily 3 hours is wasted in traveling.
True.
Whereas if
True.
you took the I mean if you use social media effectively, I think, and when I say social media, it's not only Twitter or LinkedIn, can be a WhatsApp also. So a small
Right.
video in WhatsApp getting circulated or sending to your key stakeholders, including employees, is very helpful. So for every, like, whenever we, traditionally, when you pitch for a story to any journalist, the journalist always asks that who will be the spokesperson. So
Yeah.
invariably the spokesperson is CEO or the MD, right? So apart from business, the communication to the external audience is very, very important. And now after pandemic, I think the internal audience has become more important too. Earlier, I used to, whenever 5 to 6 years back we used to work, the top five stakeholders used to be different, and internal audience never used to feature over there. Now, I think for any company like us, or for most brands, internal audience is at least at third, fourth position. Mental health has become very important. Work-life balance has become very important, and it has to be a top-down approach. If the CEO gives this message that there is a place where you work, but you have to have enough time for your family, that attracts talent. Again, giving another example, that we did some kind of a survey where we understood that a larger of the young workforce, they actually go for a company any company which is more which is doing a lot of work which is cost related, right? So it's no longer the money or the brand which attracts people, or the brand can retain people. It's multiple ways: work-life balance, mental health, how the company has good policies for the company, how active they are in ESG, what kind of CSR activities they are doing, can the employees be involved in CSR activities. All these things have become very important for brands to adopt. And the CEO and the senior management, if they are seen spearheading those activities, then it's a huge boost for the HR team to create an environment. So it's absolutely important for the senior manager, especially the CEO, he being the face of the company or the face of the brand, to actively get involved. It depends, how much time he has. But as I said, social media is something which cuts down a lot of time, and social media gives you the reach to go beyond geographical boundaries. going beyond, time zones. So maybe if I mean, one can divide it by, how much physically you can do, how much you can do digitally, depending on brand and depending on the requirements. But it's absolutely yes that the CEO has to get involved.
Now, thanks, Bhaskar. I think, loud and clear that it's not just a good to do, it's a must to do, and it's a strategic imperative for the leadership to ensure
Absolutely.
that it's part of their role because, they are responsible for the organization and every stakeholder. So whether it is my talent, current and prospective, whether it is media, whether it is government, the more you are able to use different channels, including social media, to put your vision, your values out, your key narrative out. And I think that's a huge opportunity for them. So they should definitely make it as a part of their daily routine. So thanks a lot, Bhaskar, for this amazing insights and a perspective. I'm sure this will be really useful for the current leaders and the leaders of the future, and they will really sort of ensure that it's part of their thinking from going ahead. Thanks a lot, Bhaskar, for this thing.
Thank you so
And
much, Aman, and thank you, Divya, also for coordinating the entire thing. And I am very happy to be here and share my perspective. I hope whatever you have discussed is fruitful for everyone.
thank you.